Mr. Shelly Yakus.
Yes.
You recorded one of the most famous guitar riffs of all time, which I did learn once when I was a kid, and last night I had to go to YouTube to try and remember. What a great guitar riff, but more importantly, what an insanely good song.
Great song.
Right from the get-go, the melody is amazing in the verse. And then, of course, the chorus comes in, it's super hooky.
Yeah.
But let's not forget, as musicians and lovers of music, that bridge!
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's one of the greatest bridges of any song ever.
Well, the band's a great band, and they're terrific writers, and they can play their music.
Oh, by the way, it's Don't Fear the Reaper by the Blue Oyster Cult. In case
anyone
is
not old enough to know.
Yeah. Let's listen to a little bit of the song. Wait there, do I hear a cowbell in there?
You might.
Come on, baby, don't feel the reaper. Baby, take my...
Wow, I mean, firstly, two things that always strike me about this song were, of course, number one, the snare sound. I love that poofy snare. It's a Shelly Yakus Special. You know, it's something I hear in so many of your records, whether it be this or, of course, you know, Tom Petty, or Making Movies, of course, one of my personal favorite albums ever. But then the engineer in me, now that I've been doing this for a few years and I've acquired some, you know, more sophisticated ears than when I was a kid, is that guitar sound, is the picking. Mm-hmm. Listen, I'll play it for everybody again because we can play the individual elements. Listen to the articulation on the picking. It's like a little crunchy in like 3 to 5K.
Yeah. And it's throwing the echo off, the brighter sound of it. It keeps throwing that echo off that's enhancing it.
Ah.
Because if you took the reverb off, it's quite different, actually. It's really cool, don't get me wrong. It's a great part and played really fabulously. And the accented, all the accents are there that take the reverb, but there's a lot of pre-delay on that reverb, so every time a note is struck, there's an answer in reverb.
Let's listen to the guitars on their own. It's so good. Was it done as one performance, or was it was? Wow. And miking, was it a similar technique with like 2 or 3 mics?
Yes, maybe even 4. Sometimes I didn't use all the mics, but a lot of times it was a left-right.
Yep.
For the amps usually had 2 speakers or more, right? So it was a left-right, and then there may have been one mic pulled back that was a more sensitive mic. And there could have been a 4th mic close up that was used or not used, depending on the part of the song. And that the further away mic could be like 4 or 5 feet away, and the close mics were obviously close mics and placed in a place that got this sound. And together, those 3 mics make a complete sound.
My question is, because we talked about when we were talking about the Tom Petty song, "Don't Do Me Like That." It was you said a 57, a 421, and an M160. Would the M160 still be in the middle, or would that be the one that was pulled back?
No, that would be in the middle. It sounds good up close because I can use it to get the low end, and I don't use much limiting when I do these guitars. I probably wouldn't have limited the left-right mics, but I would have limited the buyer because it's up close and I want the bottom to not get lost in the mix.
Right, makes sense.
So a little bit of limiting live, you know.
So maybe a large diaphragm pulled back?
Yes, it would have been probably a tube mic because I needed something pulled back that was sensitive, because the room we did this in was very dry. There was a shag rug, there was padded walls.
Which room?
It was Studio B at Record Plant in New York.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty dead room.
Yeah, pretty dead room, and it had a data mix console, and that console looked like an upright piano. You had to look over the top, and you look at it and you say, how are you gonna, what can you do with this? But, it had transformers in it. It's one of the secrets to capturing the sound of a band and capturing instruments the way they really sound. And when a band is able to create a song like this and come up with these ideas and these arrangements with the producer, my job is to capture what they're doing, not make them believe they should be hearing something else, So in capturing it and trying to overcome that dry room, it caused me to do certain things, like record the guitars with a little bit of delay right onto the track, and blend the little bit of delay to give it a little life. And it's interesting because if the room was not a dead room, if it was a live, I don't want to say good sounding room, but a live room, it would make me work less hard to get a really good sound. And in order to get a good sound and make it interesting sounding to me and to the band, I put a little bit of the effects on the guitars, on the drums, not more than would get in the way in the mix, but enough to give it some life, so that when we make this song, when we record this song, people hear it in their head, the players hear it in their headsets, and they hear it on the playback, and they're inspired because it sounds closer to finished, And in that day, you could keep the delays and the reverbs on the tracks and use a little bit of it, and most producers wouldn't be difficult about it.
Fantastic. Well, let's have a listen to the drums in isolation. Now, these particular isolated tracks we have here are interesting because they've bounced them as cymbal stereo, kick stereo, and snare stereo. Again, I don't know if it's exactly the drum sound as you remember it, because of course this won't have been mixed through the console. Was it mixed through the same data mix?
Yes.
So you recorded and mixed it in the same room?
Yeah, which is unusual. Normally we would record on one console and try to mix it on a different type of console.
I love the relationship between the kick and the snare. I love how short the attack is how short the sustain, I should say, is on the kick. Mm-hmm. So because it's a faster tempo, so it's like da-da-do-da-do-da-do-da-do-da. There's a bounce and there's an actual repeated rhythm in it. Instead of just going, it's got a
Yeah.
So you can feel like he's breathing on his foot, and it's really gives it a groove. Nowadays, we would probably just take that and it'd be like da 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 da, and you go da 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 da. But this is got a bounce.
Record.
Yeah,
it's a different record if you do that.
Yeah, you lose the. Hopefully that translates what I'm talking about. But there's a bounce, which is just. So it means that whenever he plays that snare, it never feels like it's flamming, even though, frankly, sometimes it can be quite far ahead. It never sounds wrong. Even when it's wrong, it's right.
His feel is great, so that kind of a feel translates into something that's really fun to listen to. It's easier to mix. Not that I've never had a mix that was easy, but it's easier to mix when players are playing with feel like this. and they have their own style, and you let it be. Like you say, now it would be more of a steady, unwavering volume, and that would make it a different record. All these nuances in every track on here, the way they touch their instruments, these guys, and the way they feel. If you let it be and just help it even come out to the listener, it has a lot to do with the final mix being a better mix, rather than constantly trying to force it to be exact time and edit things where you make everything play exactly in time, and just leaving the musicians alone, and because they can obviously play their song really well.
What I love about this song in particular, all the things we're talking about, and we can focus on even more as well about the groove stuff, let alone the bridge, is how sort of weirdly menacing it is.
Yeah.
Because the song is like, Don't Fear the Reaper. It's very like, it's got this continuous like pumping kick drum on it. The guitars, like I said, are kind of creepy, especially when the bridge comes in. It just goes to this whole like prog rock kind of masterpiece. But the vocals are like, da 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 da. They're like super pretty, which makes it frankly even more menacing. That you've got this vocal that all of us know is just so kind of like almost demure and kind of
All our times have come.
All our times have come.
Here, but now they're gone.
Here, but now they've gone.
Seasons don't fear the reaper, nor do the wind, the sun, or the rain. Come on, baby, baby, take my hand. We'll be able to fly. Baby, I'm your man. La, 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 la.
I mean, that's pretty creepy. It's basically like, we're about to die and don't worry about it. But it's all just la. So like, ooh, it's kind of like a summery love song. I mean, it's great production that it sort of has all of these different images around it. Also, I feel like another thing about this song is it's pretty timeless because it's very 70s in its approach in some ways, and it's got the prog part, but the vocals almost sound like they came from a mid-60s kind of like Beatle-inspired song, because you've got all these incredible harmonies. Unfortunately, in this split track, the backgrounds aren't separated entirely, but
We can be like they are. Come on, baby, don't fear the reaper. Baby, take my hand, don't fear the reaper. We'll be able to fly, don't fear the reaper.
I mean, that could be a Beach Boys or a Beatles style. So it's got a real mix of lots of different elements to make it unbelievably unique for the time it came out.
Yeah, and the challenge was that how do you capture and hold this feel while you're trying to get a competitive sounding piece of music on the radio? Because as we EQ'd and limited and all the things we would do to mix this, it's easy to drift away from this feel that the band creates. You know, it's kind of like, reminds me of Major Tom. The feel in that record is so strong and overwhelming, and so is this, you know. And every once in a while, there's a song that has a feel that just takes you over beyond a normal hit record or beyond the normal great record. And we were able to capture this. You know, the producers were really good, and the band knew what they were looking for, and I had my ideas, and we put them together, and it really worked.
So who were the producers on this track?
Murray Krugman, Sandy Pearlman, and David Lucas.
Fantastic. It's one of the biggest statements ever. I mean, it's a huge, it comes on the radio, you immediately know it. Not just from the guitar riff, everything about it. What a mood. I love the bass sound, by the way. I swear blind I can hear tube rattle.
You probably can.
Was it an Ampeg?
Yeah, I think it was. If I remember right, it was an Ampeg.
probably just the band bleed. Let's just solo those.
Listen to what he's saying.
I know.
It's like he's speaking.
Yeah. Oh,
Now the suppose.
all my hairs are standing on it.
Yeah,
by the way.
mine too.
Yeah.
Look at that.
So good.
So, yeah, and the sustain when he finishes his solo, I heard the sustain is in the Guinness Book of Records as the longest sustain on any record ever, which is
This is a real treat for me. Let's listen to the bridge. Let's go. We'll go back to the top of the bridge.
wow. I feel like I'm there. Listen to how much sound is coming out of his amp. Sounds like there are two people playing. It's one performance. So interesting.
How do you get? I mean, obviously, number one's the guitar player. Number one, number two, and three is the guitar player. But there is so much clean articulation, but you hear the distorted sustain.
That's right.
What is that? What is that combination? Is it
Special sauce.
special sauce? What's our special sauce?
Well, it's a combination of, like you say, it has to start with the player and the amp. And if you listen to what he's playing a lot. It's actually quite busy, but not so busy that you can't tell what's going on. It's really complicated what he's playing. And that sound, with the reverb sound that we got, makes it sound like there's two guitars or even three people playing. There isn't. There's one guitar. And those effects are making the guitar sound like there's a lot going on in it, that it's driving forward. And if you were to take that reverb off, it would be much more direct and less, well, I'll call it flashy, less, you wouldn't hear all this reverb flying off the notes and stuff, which you don't notice now because it's all one sound. But I think it has to do with his intent when he touches his strings and what comes out of the amp. It almost always starts with the player.
As a guitar player, the sound is so unbelievably unique. Listen, I'm going to play it back for everybody again. Listen to the clean, articulated pick sound hitting the strings, and then this kind of inherent distortion underneath which comes in.
I remember now what I did.
What did you do?
I had multiple mics
Yep.
right on the amp, and I limited some heavily and didn't limit some of the others. So it makes it appear, when I blended them together, it makes it appear that there's dynamics, because if they were all limited,
Right.
it would be just squashed flat, and it would be very, very not this.
That sound that's sort of in the back of my mind was what I was hoping you were going to say, because it feels like I've got a very articulate, guitar with loads of really cool transients on it. doing that, like I hear that.
Right.
Transients coming through, but then I also feel like I hear underneath.
Yes. Right.
I mean, that's one of the best guitar sounds I've ever heard.
Oh, thanks, man. That's really nice of you.
According to our friend Wikipedia, the guitar is a 175, ES-175, so a jazz guitar through a Music Man. The Music Man actually makes some sense to me with that tone now, because I know something about the Music Mans is they do have a real piercing cleanness to them. So that might explain like how, you with the multiple mics and the way that you limited one and the other. That sort of all makes sense to me now, the amp helping with it a little bit with that. But the 175 thing, I don't know if I agree necessarily on this sound. It could be. There is another pair of guitars, another guitar playing the riff, panned slightly to the other side, which sounds super spongy. And that could have been a 175. Although that sounds like a clavinet.
Sounds like a keyboard, doesn't it?
Sounds like a
It really
clavinet.
does. Now that I hear it again, it's a keyboard.
I think it's like a clavinet,
Yeah,
isn't it? Like a
yes.
Hohner clavinet.
But it sounds funny because it sounds like it's being picked at the same time. But maybe that's the sound in the sound that's in that.
Then the cowbell's in there
Keyboard.
but buried. Comes the cowbell.
Yeah,
And then there's a...
it's a good sounding cowbell too. Yeah, a güero.
All our times have come.
Hear what he's playing on the organ where he goes up high and it's like that. It gives it this mood.
I think one of the big lessons for me about this song, and the more I hear it, it reinforces what I love about it, is first of all, obviously the bridge section is like a guitar masterpiece. So from a guitar player's perspective, I could listen to that on loop for 4 hours. But the groove of the song is almost like a Motown track. Now, what I mean by that is everybody is playing the same song. Where we go back to the Tom Petty song, which was a masterpiece, but it's a separate groove, like down, down.
Yeah.
His vocals like, don't do me like that. Nobody's going down, 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 down.
Right.
They're all just going ba, ba. This song, however, everybody's playing the same song. The keys are following the melody.
All our times have come. Here, but now they're gone.
And the tempo isn't that fast. It's like,
No.
it's like how they pull it off. How they pulled it off was that they can obviously play their instruments. They understand the song. They know what they're reaching for, because it's really hard to have a song at this tempo come across and reach you and say, "Listen to me for 3.5 minutes, and don't change the station." Because it's going to be so interesting what you're hearing that you're not going to want to change the station.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that, I've read all these different interpretations about the song. Somebody claimed that it was a murder-suicide pact. Another one said it's about suicide. And I think the singer and the guitar player, Buck Dahmer, what a name. It's a nickname. What a great name. What an amazing guitar player. Says that he said it was about suicide, about there was such a high rate of suicide, at that time, that he just felt like compelled to write the song. But it's like we were talking about earlier. It's the feeling of menacingness and hope all at the same time is really.
Yeah.
It is undeniable. There is not another song that sounds like this.
No, it's unique to itself, and the producers were good because they were into having it sound good and having the sounds do what they're supposed to do first, and then overall sounding good and the presentation of it coming across to the listener. They understood that that's what it takes to make something like this. And plus the band, however the tempo is and where they place their instruments to the beat and where the snare drum is to the beat, whether it's a little behind and pushing the song, it's stuff you can't even measure. But all those things in their creation of this song, create this mood. It isn't just one thing; it's a number of things.
Amazing.
And you would think in a song that's almost considered a quiet song, a polite song, you would think that the guitars would have been a more polite rendition, but really what contradicts the politeness you were talking about before in the vocals is this aggressive thing that's going on in the guitars,
Right.
and the feel of the drums and bass. It's just it's a great presentation of this song. These guys did a great job.
And, even the released version, we have the multi-tracks here, so there's like playing afterwards, so that's great. Or at least we have the stems of the multi-tracks. The fact that it is 5 minutes and 9 seconds long.
Yeah.
God bless it.
Right.
Bring back those days.
Awesome.
bring back the days when you can go to a section like this.
The snare drum under the solo.
I mean, my hairs are still standing on it. I mean, that is, I know I keep talking about it, but God, that is one of the best guitar solos, best guitar parts, and best sounding guitar solos. It literally sounds like it was recorded yesterday. One more time, just for my self-indulgence. I mean, it's as bright and as vibrant today as it would have been then. It sounds just as modern as any. I mean, if I could get that guitar sound now, I'd be a very happy
I can get
man.
it for you.
Okay, good.
All right.
We're going to have to hire you for it.
Yeah, and then you can see how I do it.
We're going to take him up on that.
And then you can figure out what pedals they use. That'll be tougher.
What I love about having multi-tracks to listen to is when we get to the end of the song, it's already faded out. You've got how the band actually finished.
This is in that room with the shag carpets everywhere. The room wasn't much bigger than this room. Mississippi Queen was done in this room.
That's amazing. Yeah. These guys are incredible players.
Oh, they're great.
Absolutely incredible player. The Bouchard brothers. I've had the privilege of working with them a few years ago. Wow. I mean, wow. Amazing guitar player, singer, songwriter, the band, everything. Well, thank you ever so much.
Oh, my pleasure.
That was amazing.
Thanks for having me.
Leave a bunch of comments and questions below. We'll do more of these, but that was
fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
As it should be.
Thank you.